Today on Public Eye News, Lake Superior Theater here in Marquette has planned shows for this summer, and that massive cargo ship stuck in the Suez Canal is finally free. Later, Megan Tarcia will have your weather, and Max Stevens will have your sports. Hi, I'm Joseph Sigourney, and this is Public Eye News. Theater fans will be excited to hear that Lake Superior Theater here in Marquette has planned shows for this summer. After an extended intermission, the converted boathouse venue in Marquette's Lower Harbor announced their schedule of musicals starting in July, with the theater stating they'll feature a number of indoor and outdoor shows under limited capacities. Denise Clark, the theater's director, said, quote, "Some shows are going to be inside, and board president Peggy Fraser has worked really hard to identify ways that people can sit in the theater safely, much smaller groups of people on stage," end quote. After 125 years, a weekly newspaper in Michigan's Upper Peninsula is preparing for its final edition. The Munising News will stop publishing after this Wednesday. Owners Willie and Nancy Peterson also are ending the Alger County Shopper. Willie Peterson said it takes 8 people to produce the paper, but they are only down to 3. Peterson also said enhanced unemployment benefits during the pandemic have hurt recruiting. Peterson said residents in Munising and Alger County will miss the newspaper. Today, a federal appeals court ruled 2-1 that Michigan's requirement that independent statewide candidates collect at least 30,000 signatures is unconstitutional. Judges Karen Nelson Moore and Ronald Lee Gilman said the combination of the 30,000 signature minimum, a requirement that at least 100 come from half of 14 congressional districts, and the state's July filing deadline imposes a severe burden on independent candidates. Only 5 states have a higher signature requirement, according to the majority. With COVID hospitalizations on the rise, many epidemiologists say they're concerned rural hospitals might struggle to keep up with the influx in cases. Live in Elgin County is Mike Krafik.
State health officials say COVID-19 cases are increasing in just about every region of Michigan. Elgin County health officials say nearly a third of current COVID-19 cases have no known exposure.
What that tells us is that there's community transmission happening.
The county confirmed its first case of the more contagious UK variant of COVID-19. It's now in 43 of Michigan's 83 counties.
That doesn't mean that there's more cases that we just don't know of yet.
Rural health officials now rushing to vaccinate people as variants emerge. Michiganders 16 up will be eligible for the vaccine starting April 5th. While vaccine supplies have slowed efforts, epidemiologists say vaccine hesitancy will become a bigger problem for local health officials.
So now they're focused on having enough supply for people that want it and having enough, clinics and getting enough vaccine in. And at some point, the messaging is going to have to shift to reach the, people who may be less likely to get it,
State data shows 64% of the state's 65 and older population is vaccinated. In rural counties like Allegan, 54% of the population is vaccinated. In Barry County, it's 50%.
Vaccine hesitancy is a real thing, and we need to continue to make sure people are getting good information from good sources.
Efforts now underway to combat the problem.
And also looking at deploying our mobile unit to reach populations where there may be just hesitancy accessing a clinic or concerns outside of the vaccine itself.
Stay tuned, because after this break, we'll be back with your national and international news.
Today, whites have every hour on television. Blacks have none.
James Baldwin,
Patti LaBelle,
Toni Morrison,
Al Green,
Earth, Wind & Fire,
Stevie Wonder.
Yo, this is every day. Ellis came at a time when there were so few positive African-American images on television.
There is nothing we cannot do.
That on national TV was revolutionary.
There is no alternative to soul.
Tonight at 10 on WNMU-TV.
Welcome back. The head for the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention made an impassioned plea to Americans today not to let their guard down in the fight against COVID-19, saying they have a reoccurring feeling of, quote, impending doom. President Joe Biden prepared to announce further efforts to expand access to coronavirus vaccines. Cases of the virus are up about 10% over the past week from the previous week to about 60,000 cases per day, with both hospitalizations and deaths ticking up as well. The U.S. Education Department is canceling student debt for more than 40,000 Americans who were previously granted loan forgiveness because of disabilities, but later had their debt reinstated after they failed to submit certain paperwork. The action targets a loan forgiveness program that aims to help people with disabilities, but that critics say carriers overly burdensome rules. After being granted loan forgiveness, borrowers are required to submit documentation of their earnings for 3 years. If their earnings go beyond certain thresholds, or if they fail to submit documentation, they're back on the hook for their loans. As violence continues in Myanmar, Thai soldiers began sending back some of the thousands of people who have fled this series of airstrikes by the military. On Saturday, more than 100 people were killed in and around demonstrations throughout the country, the bloodiest single day since the takeover. The violence in Myanmar military, both on the border and in cities around the country, raised the question of whether international community would respond more forcefully than it has thus far to a coup that ousted the government led by Aung San Suu Kyi and reserved years of progress toward democracy. The trial of Derek Chauvin has gotten underway. The former Minneapolis police officer is accused of murdering George Floyd last May by kneeling on his neck for more than 9 minutes. Skylar Henry is outside the courthouse where opening statements are happening today.
Fired Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin surveyed the courtroom as the judge gave instructions to members of the jury. The 19-year veteran has pleaded not guilty to the murder and manslaughter charges in the death of George Floyd. Prosecutors began their opening statements.
Mr. Derek Chauvin betrayed this badge when he used excessive and unreasonable force upon the body of Mr. George Floyd.
Prosecutors wasted no time playing a video of Chauvin arresting Floyd, kneeling on his neck for more than 9 minutes.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
The video fueled one of the largest protest movements in U.S. history, with demonstrators demanding an end to police brutality and systemic racism. The defense is expected to argue the fentanyl found in Floyd's system, along with his underlying health conditions, contributed to his death.
Mr. Camaro, you will hear, described Mr. Floyd as drunk and that he could not control himself.
As crowds begin to build up outside of the courtroom, there's also a significant security presence outside of the courthouse in and of itself, with fencing and concrete barriers, as officials are concerned about the possibility of unrest either after or during the trial. Before proceedings began, members of Floyd's family, their attorneys, and supporters took a knee for the length of time Chauvin's knee was on Floyd's neck.
This murder case is not hard when you watch that torture video of George Floyd.
The trial will be live streamed with jurors positioned off camera to protect their identities. The panel of 14 includes 8 people who are white, 4 who are black, and 2 who identify as multiracial. That could be critical in a case with so much racial significance. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Minneapolis.
The skyscraper-sized cargo ship that has been jammed across the Suez Canal is finally free, and traffic has resumed at one of the busiest trade routes in the world. CBS's Lee has the latest from London.
The massive ship known as the Ever Given is moving again after a massive effort to dislodge it. Tugboats blasted in relief early Monday morning when the colossal ship blocking the Suez Canal finally budged after hours of being pushed, pulled, and prodded. Now one of the world's most crucial passages is open again.
And this isn't the first time this has happened, and although it has captured the sort of public's imagination because it's such a big vessel.
For days, dredgers sucked up nearly 1 million cubic feet of sand and mud. Mother Nature also lent a hand with a full moon high tide, raising the canal's water level. Egyptian investigators are now looking into how this happened. The blockage created a traffic jam of nearly 400 ships carrying everything from crude oil and cattle to coffee and toilet paper.
The canal can take about 50 or 60 ships a day, so there is going to be some delay as they free up this backlog.
The disaster has hit world economies hard, with billions of dollars lost in global trade. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Don't go too far, because after this break, we'll be back with your weather and sports.
Rising seas, melting ice, extreme weather. Our world is changing.
We are facing a man-made disaster on a global scale.
It's happening in your world, it's happening in my world.
But is there still time to change our future?
We can't just let it slip away from us.
David Attenborough explores the scientific evidence in Climate Change, the Facts.
Wednesday night at 9 on WNMU-TV.
Welcome back to Public Eye News. I'm Megan Tarcia, and I'm here with your weather. As you can see behind me, the snow is melted from the beautiful sun that is shining over the NMU campus. As we look into today's conditions, it is windy with a temperature of 42 degrees. Our winds are south at 25 miles per hour, and our barometric pressure is 29.80 inches and falling. Looking into tonight's conditions, it'll also be windy with a low of 40 degrees. Our winds are south-southwest at 25 miles an hour. Tomorrow's conditions are cloudy with a high of 47 degrees. Winds are west-southwest at 14 miles per hour. As we look across the UP, starting over in Sault Ste. Marie, it is 38 and rain showers. Manistee at 41 with sunny skies. Escanaba, 41 and windy. Down in Menominee, 45 and windy. Iron Mountain at 50 and sunny skies. Ironwood, 57 and windy. Up in Houghton, it is 56 and sunny. And here in beautiful Marquette, it is 42 and windy. Looking ahead at our weekly conditions, starting with Wednesday is a high of 26 degrees with a low of 21. Cloudy skies. Thursday will be a high of 32 with a low of 24 with partly cloudy skies. And Friday will be a high of 49 and a low of 37 with partly sunny skies with clear skies later on. Going over to Max Stevens with our sports.
Thank you, Megan. As the month of March winds to a close, the NCAA tournament enters its final stages with the Elite Eight set to begin tonight. First up is the Midwest Regional Final, pitting the 12th-seeded Oregon State Beavers against the 27-3 Houston Cougars. Following the conclusion of that game, the South Regional Final will pit the Baylor Bears against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Tomorrow night's slate features the tournament's top overall seed and still undefeated Gonzaga Bulldogs taking on the USC Trojans in the West Regional Final, followed by the East Regional Final, pitting the Michigan Wolverines against the UCLA Bruins. The tournament then concludes with both Final Four games taking place this coming Saturday, followed by the National Championship game a week from tonight. The MHSAA basketball tournaments are entering their regional stages with the girls tournament beginning regional play this evening. In Division 2, Escanaba and Sault Ste. Marie are the only UP teams remaining, and they meet tonight at 7, with the winner advancing to face either Ludington or Standish Sterling in the regional finals. In Division 3, St. Ignace takes on Alcona at 7, with the winner earning the right to take on the winner of a pairing of undefeated teams in Calumet and Menominee for the right to advance to the state quarterfinals. Finally, in Division 4, the All-UP Region 25 semifinals will pit Ewan-Trout Creek against Baraga and Kearney-Nadeau against Munising. The only other UP teams remaining in regionals in Division 4 are Rudyard and Cedarville, the winner of which will face either Mackinac City or Posen to advance to the state quarters. On the boys' side of the MHSAA tournament, district play concluded on Saturday with regionals and are set to begin tomorrow night. In Division 1, Marquette is the only UP team playing at the regional stage. Tomorrow, they travel to Traverse City for a neutral site game with Midland. In Division 2, only Escanaba remains from the UP. They will host Boyne City tomorrow night for the right to advance to the regional finals. In Division 3, 2 UP teams remain. The 18-1 Painesdale Jeffers Jets will meet the UP's top-ranked and still undefeated Iron Mountain Mountaineers, with the winner advancing to face either Charlevoix or Oscoda in the regional finals. In Division 4, 5 UP teams remain. Region 25 is where 4 of the teams will play, with regional semifinal matchups featuring Bessemer against Chassell and Kearney-Nadeau taking on Rapid River. The final UP team remaining is Rudyard, who will meet Mackinac City in the Region 26 semifinals. And with that, that's all the time we have for you today. Thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Public Eye News. We'll see you all tomorrow.
The preceding program was produced by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television, in studios located in Elizabeth and Edgar Hardin Hall.